Welcome, guys. We'll take a look at long castle setup in the classical. The previous chapter, we saw everything that is related to short castle. And this time we'll see long castle. So c6, bishop d6, bishop d3, castle. Queen c2 makes a lot of sense. If white is aiming for long castle, it makes sense to delay everything right now. Because after rook e8, white has the option of playing bishop e3 also, which is what we will see first. Now, before I proceed any further, when it comes to long castle, I want to highlight something completely different. That is in Petrov, there is this line knight c3, take dc3. And often white goes for long castle when typically black has two plans, castle on the short side or on the long side. And I want to once again highlight, like if you look at this position, why can't we say white's pawn structure is bad, so it is black who should be fighting for initiative? That is because you will see after taking dc3, white is not going for short castle. His foundation is based on that the fact that I'll castle long, and my king has this one extra layer of protection, which means it's not easy to break the queen side. So if we get a situation with short castle versus long castle, we are simply saying when the attack will start, it's easier to attack on the king side than on the queen side. At a very generic level, of course, there are many subtleties. But when we come to our setup in Caro-Kann, it's the same. It is essentially the same. You can go for long castle, but I'm saying I have more pawns on the king side, which means my king is safer. In fact, after bishop e3, we don't even play h6. We don't play g6. We are okay to play h5. Actually, it doesn't matter whether he plays knight e2 or bishop e3. We are absolutely fine to play h5 because it will not be easy to break on the king side. So let's get started. Long castle will be the main move. Knight e2 we will see from different move order. For now, let's start with knight f3. This has been played by Anna Mudizuk number of times. So we go bishop e6. Very typical. Keeping an eye, not necessarily will take. We cannot even take right now because b3, bishop a3 check, there is king d2. But okay, we play knight a6. You will see later, it's not necessarily the only way to play. It's pretty decent way. Of course, if white takes, then we are extremely happy. Like we will have so many targets, and this pawn structure does not really matter at all. White has zero attack on the king side. White will not take. If white plays something like knight h4, which is the typical idea to keep the knight on f3, we come back. Let's say some g4, trying to open up the file. This is again very typical. White wants some hg4, h3, then bring the rook to g1, try to open up the file as quickly as possible. But we start immediately here. We start again attacking. And once again, it is highlighted that yes, you can take, but it takes a lot of time to create some attack, and already we are creating threats. If g4, okay, we take the queen a5, attacking on a2. So we have to play active. Yes, we have this extra layer of this pawns, but if we start giving free moves, sooner or later white will bring more and more forces on the king side. So we attack. White does not have time to defend. If he protects, now we attack the knight. We take it, and it's completely winning. We'll also play f5. Now the pawn is coming into picture, this extra pawn. Likewise, if knight f5, we take. Once again, we should be careful here. Let's not forget, even though we have more number of pawns, all our pieces are actually missing. And white does have pieces. So once he gets rook g1, rook g4, it could be tricky. And hence, something like this is not ideal. Then we are losing coordination. Now it's time to get back. So come back and come here. White has to give the bishop. If something like bishop d2, rook e2, it's already completely winning for black. So white gives up. And we take rook e3. Rook g1, okay, is creating this threat. And this move we will see number of times thanks to this pawn, g5. Now he's sort of forced to take. We take. Again and again, thanks to this extra pawn, we could afford to play like this. Yeah, just want to be sure about one thing, that after the h4, yeah, there should be many moves. Like, I don't know if bishop e7 is a move. Also, even something like this, I wouldn't mind, because I'm also creating some threats here. And maybe, you know, I can also start creating some ideas. I don't know if this is the way to go, but at least I don't see a immediate mate. I see everything is protected. But it's not so important. There will be other moves also. So that's for this knight f3 and g4. Let me just be completely sure that we covered everything here. Yeah. So now we move to direct long castle. So white is claiming, hey, you played h5, now I go long castle and I start on the king side. But again and again, this will not be easy to create any attack. First of all, how do you even break the file? G4, you have to take care of h4. If you play h4, okay, how are you playing g4? Maybe I'll take with the bishop. Also, keep in mind, playing f3 is not easy with the bishop on e3. Already, you might be asking, then why not knight e2, bishop d2? Well, that's the main line. We'll see later. So here, bishop e6. King b1, okay, b5, knight e2. Once again, our knight is coming to d5. We'll play queen f5. And it's not easy for white to attack. Having said that, once again, before one tournament, I was looking at this, and although almost exclusively king b1 is being played, I saw Engine minutely prefers knight e2, claiming it's evenly balanced. So I was checking what to do for knight e2, and it does make sense because we still cannot take it immediately because of b3. There are different ways to play b5, knight a5, knight a6, but I want to show one particular thing that I really liked, and which, by the way, you can do even here. Even after king b1, you can have the same plan if you feel like. That is knight e2, I was thinking a5, king b1 at some point, doesn't even matter, play a4, he plays rook g1, play knight d7. And ask white how he is going to break on the king side. What is the plan? One typical plan is to play g4, trying to get some form of kingside attack. There are several ways to play. Let me just show some of those takes. You take. And here, machine was saying bishop h6 is the way. Again, multiple options. You can just ignore and play bishop f8. But there is one variation that I wanted to show again to give you confidence in how many different ways black can play because of this pawn majority. One is take this pawn also. Rook g2, take this guy also. Now, if rook h2, which looks obvious, but it's already a blunder because of this beautiful maneuver. Either play f4, then my bishop is secured, or allow me rook g5, and then I'm completely dominating. And let's not forget, your king is still weak in long term. So white should play f3 here, apparently. We come back, fg4, h4. Once again, look at this thing. It's so beautifully protected, everything, that no attack is happening. So just to give one plan, like, just to understand that it's not move per move. There will be some variation which could get concrete, but I don't even think it's very particular. We will always have options. So knight e2, again h5. Don't play h6, don't play g6. Pawn on h5 is actually better placed. It's not easy to target. We also take care that g4 is not happening easily. So now there are options with bishop d2 and bishop c3. Ideally, white would prefer to have the bishop on d2 because then he has this, he can move the f pawn, like whether it is some form of g4, f3, in some way. But bishop d2 immediately allows us to play c5. By the way, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this, which is the main line. Like knight d7, it has been played by also Vidit. Vidit played knight f8 here. Knight f8 is also fine. We will see historically also we do play knight f8, but you will see in our course we are always going for b5. We don't put the knight on f8 easily. So this is one way. But playing bishop d2 direct allows us to play c5 immediately, and we can capitalize on this. There are not many games here, only 5. So long castle. Playing d5 doesn't help white. We'll play this, and yeah, like we'll get another additional square. And once you play f4 again, I'll keep asking, how are you going to open up the position? You play this, I'll play h4. And meanwhile, of course, we are going to break on the queen side. So c5, let's say long castle, knight c6. If takes, we take, we are happy. We'll play knight e5 next. So bishop e3, we attack. If king b1, okay, we take everything. Play bishop g4, come back. Again, giving the same argument, like it does not matter much if you're provoking f3 or not. Okay, create some weaknesses. But the Petrov thing, like you move this f6 pawn, I'm unsure. Then maybe it could get a bit tricky. But having this one extra layer makes a lot of difference. Bishop e6, rook c8, knight e5. And this time with half open c5, it could be even easier for black to create counterplay on the queen side. Now we get to the main stuff, which we could get either via this move order, knight e2, or knight e2 here, and now bishop e3. So what is the difference? There, bishop e3, h5, long castle, we had some such options, b5. But by playing knight e2 and bishop e3, white is still not committed with long castle. So he's keeping it flexible, like whether I want short castle or long castle. In fact, that's the reason the chapters are divided into setup based, because otherwise move order becomes nightmare. Like just this knight e2, bishop e3, and then short castle, long castle with or without. Like first of all, there is this with queen c2, without queen c2. Then you have this knight e2, bishop e3, long castle and short castle in all sorts of permutation combination, and it gets unnecessarily complicated. Okay, here we play knight d7. So long castle will be the main move. And the other option is knight g3. It's going for our pawn, is threatening knight f5. You can ignore. We can afford to ignore because, yeah, knight is coming to d5. I believe we already saw this. Yeah, we saw this in the previous chapter, right? Where short castle was given. And long castle, short castle we already saw in the previous chapter. Long castle, bishop g4 was better. The analysis is here. I unnecessarily wasted time. Well, let's see. Do you remember bishop e2? I said, at least I have this. At least. Apparently, yes, this is possible. But okay, I missed something very simple. We are winning a piece. Like there is bishop h5, queen f5, black is not worse, black is fine. But we could take, we could play g6, and we could just play f4 and we are winning. I wasted a couple of minutes there. Sorry about that in the previous chapter. So long castle now. Knight d5. Once again, if knight h5, we play bishop g4. If rook e1, well, we can take and play queen a5. We can also play bishop e6, attacking on a2, keeping an eye on a2, and queen a5. At least this time we have the same idea and creating counterplay. So bishop goes back to d2. So white did play bishop e3, bishop d2, but he managed to get rid of the c5 idea that we had. But now we take the bishop. And again, our king side is very solid and black is taking over. So that's for knight g3. Now we come to the main move, which is long castle. So we lost the knight a6 option. And at this point, historically, like, yeah, out of 1300 games, almost 1100 games, black played knight f8, which is again possible. Like, I have no problem if you want to say, I will play knight f8, I'll keep this knight here, then I want to play b5, a5, a4. Even if you say, I want to play this position by hand, it is possible. But we really liked this b5, and we insist that if you can understand, like if you can ensure that you will remember a few points, please go for b5. It is so much more dynamic than knight f8. So the primary reason not to play b5 is d5. And this pawn is gone. This is what we will see at the end. Before we get there, let's see if white wants to do something direct, like g4. If he plays slowly, like king b1, but this is not helping, then we get b5, knight b6. If knight f4, we can take, put the bishop here, queen comes to d5. We get complete control. We will ensure he has to play this and then go for a5, a4. And it will take ages for white to attack on the king side. If white wants to play very direct, moves like g4. Okay, close it. We want knight b6, bishop e6, and so on. What are the options? Let's see how white can try to attack. Rook g1. So the bishop is on e3, which means there is no f4. Once again, we see this move, g5. What a way to stop. And look at this. We need both the pawns to have this kind of aggressive way of defending, going against all principle. Like, we are not supposed to push pawns like this. But once again, we can break the principle because of this domination in king side. So white prepares f4. We ignore. And we are in time. Takes. Completely fine. If he takes, we take. We restricted all the pieces, and this is not creating any threat on this diagonal. So black entirely takes over now. Black is clearly better. So that's for rook g1. Direct g5. You will see another idea. So all these are concepts that you should keep in mind. So we take rook g1. There are different ways to play. The one which I like the most, now it's time to give. And maybe you will take on h2. It's totally fine. Just do not rush to play f6. Like, let's wait, because it's not even easy how he's going to attack twice. Imagine something like rook g2. I can even just play bishop h3. So we don't have to rush. We can play queen e7, move the bishop, get the rook to e8, or put the bishop to e6. Very fine position. In fact, to give you an idea, something like this you can already take, come back, and next play g4. I think computer says here white should give rook g4 and continue like this. So that's another plan. Like, we can take often rook e3. Bishop h7 check. This is a very cunning move. And this is something that we have to keep in mind, because we did not play knight f8. We played b5. And there is a trick. Bishop h7 check is not an empty move. If you remember the trick, then you will be cautious. You will not just blindly play king h8. King h8 allows this tempo. And then there is this move knight g3, when white is creating some incredible attack on the king side. This we don't want. I honestly don't know where exactly is the mate, though, but there should be something. Even now I don't see the mate. Maybe just rook d e1 or something like this. But what I know for sure is this line does not work. So knight g3 is kind of annoying. So we play king f8, bishop e4. Here bishop b7 is possible, but also queen c7. No more knight g3, obviously. Our king will run. Now, how is he playing? If he is playing some normal move, like I want to develop, okay, your knight comes. To show another idea, we have seen this also in the previous chapter number of times. The pawn actually does not matter. Knight will come to d5. White has no way to attack, and we are just getting started. So a great compensation for black in the position. If white wants to be desperate, playing g5, now he wants to attack on the king side again. What do? We know our plan. Please state. So here already again, if for example you play bishop e4, which is a natural move, knight b6, Indians consider this position as clear better for black, if not winning already. Again, giving the same logic, the attack is entirely stopped. f4 square is under control. You cannot play f4, and I have not yet started. Soon I will start. So white should find a way to make a draw, and that is he should take. And he actually has a draw here because our d6 bishop is not protected. So a couple of checks and it's a draw. If white takes here, then we consolidate and we are clearly better. So white should make a draw immediately, or I think he has one or two moves, but essentially it's just a draw perpetual. Now we move to knight g3 instead of g4. So knight g3 here. Again, we see the same Diptan trademark. That is, initially you might be uncomfortable with certain move, or you might see, oh, am I playing like this? But then you get used to it. Okay, knight b6, take the pawn. Bishop g4 again. So if white wants to give the excess, it's probably possible to take, but no need. We can also play something like this. We can play really actively. Play b4, play b3, get the knight, get the queen. We probably don't have more than a draw, but at least anytime you have knight a2, knight b4. So bishop e2, what do we do now? Take. Same plan. Again, same plan. And we sacrificed a pawn. We got the momentum. Now it is time to start. White would love to play queen c2, keep the queen here, or d2. But either f4 is coming or knight c4 is coming. So queen has to go somewhere else. And now we start here. There is nothing to be scared of here. You at least have rook e6 kind of move to ensure rook g6 is there. So b4, white takes, knight d5. This is also possible, creating big chaos. But just knight d5, bishop d2. And we just started faster. And here pawns doesn't count. Once again, just one thing I'll be curious about, that this h4, h5. Maybe I can just take knight b4 and it is immediately creating some threat on a2. This could be an option. And then again, rook b8, again creating immediate threats. And on this side, he needs h5. He will take hg6. I'll take fg6. Then he has knight f5. Only then he creates some threat. So I'll have enough time to take care of this. So that's the way. Now, the main move. The reason why b5 is more modern, but not, let's say, as popular as knight f8 in terms of number of games. There are 1100 roughly games with knight f8 and only 200 with b5. But b5, it has been played by Ding, Magnus, Van Forest, Elianov, Donchenko, many strong players, and also some recent games. d5. We have no option. We are willing to sack the pawn. White has to take. And this is the critical position. Do we have justification to sacrifice this pawn or not? So white should play c4, stabilize. If, to give you an idea, bishop d7 in computer's world, it is over. It's completely winning. Like, white will not be able to withstand the kind of attack that is coming with, I don't know, queen a5, some doubling on b file. Likewise, a4 is only helping us. I'll just show another idea, like play something like this. Once again, takes and knight e5, we completely take over. So that is also the attraction, that to play like this. That's another reason we recommend b5. So it comes down to this position. And this is the position I want you to pause and understand very clearly. The same was applicable in this position also. Like, white always has these two options: bishop going to c6 or a4. It would be nice to have similar move in both, but that we cannot have. Whether white does it with c4 a6 included, which is preferable. That's why the rest is just written in text, because it's not ideal. Having c4 a6 can only benefit white because it creates knight c3 room. Pawn on a6 is not doing much. So at this point, what are we doing for bishop c6 and what are we doing for bishop a4? We have to have complete clarity. If we do not have that, we cannot play b5. Then better play knight f8 and play by hand. So this has to be absolutely clear. If the bishop comes to c6, this bishop is vulnerable because I will get knight e5 because there is no f4 happening. So I unpin myself, preparing knight e5. If the bishop goes to a4, there is no more knight e5. However, I have a completely different idea. I can play rook e5. The rook is brilliantly placed here because you don't have f4. You don't have bishop f4. So my rook is nicely placed. And since you moved the bishop on a4, I don't have knight e5, but I get knight b6 with a tempo and then subsequently bishop f5 with a tempo. Guys, this we just cannot miss. Like, this is the base with which the whole b5 line is standing upon. So please don't confuse the move order. Like, you cannot go bishop a4 and then rook e7 and after bishop c6 playing rook e5. That would be a complete nightmare. But I hope after this explanation, this should be clear. So bishop c6, we attack the knight. We just prepare that. And the thing is, he cannot stop it. So here already black gets great compensation. All the machine says 0.00. I prefer black. In most cases, white played a mistake, including Wei against Ding Liren, played knight c3, and now black takes over, knight e5. If if b3, then again queen is coming to a5, and there is some other line. I think Diptan wrote something here, but I remember this was completely gone already. Yeah, knight a4, g6, and bishop f5 is coming. Yeah, he gives some lines like this. Mate. Done. Knight d3, bishop a3. So rook e7, knight e4 was played in Wei Ding, and bishop came f5. Ding played bishop g4, but bishop comes to f5. It looks like bishop f5 is a blunder, and I believe this was a rapid game. That is why black did not play bishop f5, because what are we going to do after knight f6 and queen f5? Looks gone. But how many times do I keep saying that it takes time to create some attack here? Queen a5, game is over. You cannot deal with so many things anymore. Resigns, basically. So yeah, nothing to be done anymore. So f3. I don't think f3 was the issue, because then why would Ding play bishop g4 allowing f3? But maybe there he wanted knight f3. I don't know, but I feel bishop f5, knight f6 is what would be at least my concern during the game. So f3 takes, queen e4, knight c6 wins. And here again, bishop d2 will run into knight f2. And otherwise, clear better. So bishop c6, that was. Now bishop a4. And this move, if you do not know, it is not easy to play over the board, because rook e5 might not be a natural move. We put this rook very loose, right? If it can be attacked with bishop f4 or f4. But for this move, for the next move, he cannot attack. And that is changing the equation. You cannot play bishop f4 because of rook e2. You cannot play f4 because of rook e3. Knight g3 is also not stabilized, because there will be some form of h4, which eventually means that I will get bishop f5. So, okay, let's say bishop b3, knight b6. Knight c3 we'll see from different move order. Knight g3. We h4, he probably wants knight e4, bishop f5, maybe f3 or something. But we just play a5. We are not in rush. And already computer claims this position is clear better, if not winning already. So white should play knight c3. We play knight b6. Of course, we have to play knight b6. White is already coming up with bishop f4 ideas. So we create our own threat here. White cannot keep things consolidated. Like, he's hoping for knight a4, knight a4. But these things will not happen. And already queen a4, knight a4, rook b1 is threatened. Its position is collapsing. Bishop b3. Bishop f5. Attacking the queen. Now the counterintuitive queen e2 is actually the way to go for white. Getting into the pin, because it's more important to keep the c4 pawn protected. But in most games, queen d2 was played. There are 6 games where out of 6, I think 5 games queen d2 was played. So queen d2, we play a5. We want to play a4 eventually. So bishop f4 now, it immediately loses a4. If bishop e5, we take, takes, we take, and it's resignation. Even b3 I'm taking here. So some way or other, black is winning. What about this? I think some check here. So this is lost. After knight a4, I think there are many moves, but this could be the most flashy. If queen e2 here, Kabira says bishop g4 is a move, where f3 will be a mistake, you can come back. If queen d3, bishop f5, or just g6. But there are many different ways. To give you an idea, this is once again a possibility. If fe3, bishop g4, white has to take with the queen. Now you throw a4. White has to take, we take. And these lines were not given in the file, but I just want to show some ideas, basically, to give you some confidence on this kind of position. You can also take this. g5, threatening bishop f4. White, of course, could not take here because of mate. So ab3, g5, g3 has to be played, bishop e5. Like, look at the dynamic of the position. It's nightmare, actually. Kabira calls it equal. But yeah, in a game, I would any day prefer black. Simply because, again, my king is safer than your king. But yeah, like, I don't think queen e2 was mentioned. There are many other moves. I just wanted to show some variations and ideas. a3, keeping a square on a2. Just a useful move. Here also, we could, if we want, we could do something like this. Is a possibility. But g6 is a very cunning waiting move. He's waiting for, let's say, okay, some move like h3. If not h3, if bishop f4, there was some knight d5 here, yeah? Yeah, there is again knight d5. If cd5 we take, something like this. Once again, completely winning. And yeah, what else he can do? There was some f4 line. Yeah, if f4 here, then you can also pull back the rook here. Also, rook can come here. h3, white is waiting. So now once again, we can always play something like this, but he has knight b5. So we still wait and just play h4. What is the difference? So now if you play g4, now I can take, and now I don't have to play rook b6 because your e3 bishop is hanging. So if you take, I can take here. So finally white plays f4. Okay, now we come back. We keep all these attacking ideas, maybe some a4, maybe rook b7. And of course, you know what is our strength. Our strength is this, and we play for this. So now we come to queen e2. Queen e2, bishop g4. It's a very interesting way because we want to target the e3 bishop. If in whichever way white gives the exchange, we will take and we'll play f5. Either this way or queen d3 takes f5. Bishop f4, you can always give it back. Bishop e5, or queen e5, doesn't matter much. White plays f3, and now we attack this bishop, but in a cunning way. If g4, we have this, he cannot take because of bishop f4. If king b1, we'll play rook e8. White plays rook d2 to have knight d1. In fact, it's an important move. So if g4, we will take. Again, we are taking over. So white must play knight d1. White is playing many peculiar moves, actually. Like, I know we are making computer stop choice starting from bishop b5, bishop a4, this bishop b3, f3, knight d1. But even then, I prefer black here. Bishop c8. And I'm playing a5, a4. I want to play bishop a6. White's advantage is having this pawn, extra pawn on d5. Of course, if you trade queens, I don't know what would be the evaluation then. Even still there, I see some compensation. But with queens on the board, the g8 king being super safe, black should be completely fine. Okay, some move here. If a3 already, then bishop a6, apparently black is completely taking over. f4, you always have rook b4. White plays this. So cannot even think of such ideas here. Next bishop e5 is coming. Bishop a6 at some point. So we have this compensation. And look at this, we were not even considering taking on h2, which might be a possibility in some cases. I will not rule it out. But yeah, we do have a lot of compensation. Queen d3, again, same story. a5, g6. Once again, we see standard moves. None of these moves are absolutely like forcing, but it just gives us a lot of ideas. Like whether it's queen b7, bishop f8, nothing was really forcing. You could play in multiple different ways, but it gives you an idea how healthy our position is. That's it. It was not so big. So let's do a recap. So firstly, to understand that we compared with this. So this I want you to keep in mind that it is about having this one extra pawn. Every opening you play, there should be a justification. Every move that you make, there has to be a justification. So if direct here, some move, king b1, either this setup or, as I was saying, like even in knight e2, even if you get something like this is also completely fine. White cannot create anything special. We saw some variations, but it's not even our main line though. There are different ways. Mm. If knight e2, what are the things we should know? This we should know, that we play c5 immediately. And after castle, we get our knight out. So bishop d to c5 we should keep in mind. Within bishop e3, if knight g3, we are always sacrificing this. Such position. And after long castle, as I was saying, like knight f8 is historically the most popular move, but we want d5. D5 is supposedly the move which was considered as refutation earlier, but nowadays not so. G4, we can play h4. We should play h4. And few ideas. One idea is to have this in mind, this setup, where nothing is going wrong. You can also allow such ideas. Second setup, after g5, we can take and take on e3. This kind of thing. In some cases, you can take on h2 also, come back, play g4. Like it's just one set of army is going. If they sacrifice, we still have the backup on f7, g7. Things to remember, king h8 is not what we want. Although, as I said, I don't know where exactly the mate is coming. All I know that this is not the way to go. Would be actually still nice to know why. Could be rook d1, could be some d5. Or could be just, yeah, doesn't matter. I actually don't see it, and I would still go with rook d e1. Makes me nervous, actually, this e-file thing. So anyway, we are playing king f8, bishop goes back. And here, all sorts of f5, whether with rook h1 or I would say g5 is more natural. But this is our idea. Here, black is taking over. White should take, but then it's a draw. And if white wastes some move, then you immediately play this and then you have f5. And this time you can, there is no bishop g8, so bishop g6. So you get your great compensation. That's for g4, which we should know. Knight b6, okay, this we also should know, that we are not protecting this guy, and takes such position. Again, creating play on the queen side. Yeah, this one I was saying, right? Queen would love to go to c2, but it has to go to f3, but then you start creating attack on the, here even a5 or knight d5, whatever. Finally, we come to d5, which is important. Now, if white plays slow, then we are very happy. But d5, c5, bishop b5, as I mentioned, this is your key moment. Bishop goes to a4, we play rook e5, knight b6. Bishop goes to c6, we play rook e7, knight e5. But don't keep this in your mind with moves. Like when you go to board, it should not be like bishop c6, rook e7, bishop a4, rook e5. That's the way I dislike keeping, things in mind. It's like the reasoning behind it. If bishop c6, I want knight e5, so I'm playing rook e7. If bishop a4, I cannot play knight e5, so I'm playing rook e5, because I get this one tempo where you cannot play f4 or bishop f4 due to rook e2 or rook e3. And with that extra tempo, I'm getting quickly knight b6, attacking a4 and threatening bishop f5. So, of course, all of this white should include here. Bishop on c6 is actually even, like already every game knight c3 was played, then we are taking over. But even otherwise, it is better. Remember this stuff though. Like even if you don't play this, it's black is not worse, but here it is fine because this one is losing. And lastly, this is probably the toughest move, this rook e5. So now next, knight is coming to b6. And we have generic compensation with a5. Queen d2 is a5. And yeah, you can see the lines, but here the moves are not making much of a difference. In fact, computer wants queen e2 when we are coming like this. These kind of positions, I would just say, go and play. Maybe bishop c8 is a classy move because bishop on d7 is not facilitating a5, a4. That I will anyway get thanks to the knight on b6. But my bishop is better placed on a6. That's it, guys. I hope classical Caro-Kann is no more boring for you. Whether white goes short castle or long castle, it's not a boring line. It's not that typical line where white will play classical Caro-Kann and gets away. There are so many complicated ways dynamic way to approach this opening. That's it for this chapter. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.